Zoom technology due to the state of emergency initiated March 12th due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This meeting is being recorded both audio and video, and I think probably being live streamed on Facebook. Applicants will be able to present remotely, or we'll put up the plans for them. And also on April 6th, the Conservation Commission delegated signature authority to Stefan Cotino, the chair, and or Andrea Langhauser, the environmental planner, assisting planning director, for all decisions issued during the duration of the emergency. So first hearing is 670 Washington Street.
If Michael Koska is here, can you raise your hand?
I think Rick is from that. The Rick Crystal, I think he might be from, yes.
Rick
Crystal
is raising his hand. Okay.
I think he's the applicant, I believe.
Okay. Okay. I just promoted Mr. Crystal to panelist so he can tell us about the project. Unmute. I do have to say that I reviewed a, yes, not unmuted.
Am I unmuted now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Tony was supposed to represent Mr. Koska.
Who's Tony?
He works with
Tony. Okay, I don't see Tony. I don't see the name Tony. There's listed. Is
Okay.
anybody else here to represent Mr. Koska?
Wow. This is John. This is
Well, I'll do what I can.
Well, I'm going to give you another. I'm going to throw you another one. I reviewed a plan and spoke to Mr. Koska about the plan that was dated. That was revised after our last meeting,
Right.
and it hasn't been posted to Permitize. So I don't have an electronic copy to share with the board.
He brought me a copy, and that day he had posted it. He told me it was posted.
Well, that was, I unfortunately wasn't able to locate it on the online application.
Wonderful.
So Andrea, were the changes? I mean, I think there were some relatively minor changes that we wanted on that.
They were all done.
Exactly. He just he acknowledged that the limit of work is still at the edge of pavement, and he put permanent markers that he has a description for along the edge of pavement, and that will be installed at the same time. He identifies construction notes to keep the site clean and during construction. And there isn't going to be any stockpiling. All material will be removed from site. And the system itself hasn't changed at all. We were concerned about where the flood zone datum was, and because there was a conversion of the elevations needed on the plan, the floodplain shows up down at the base of the slope closer to the wetland than the limit of work.
So if you're comfortable that he met our needs, I'm willing to move forward, you know, with the condition that it get uploaded. But you know, does anybody else have any questions about the changes that we requested and whether they want to proceed or not?
Like Stefan? Stefan did do his Mullins report.
Yeah. John, do you have any comments?
No, I think, like you said, Rory, is that, you know, if Andrea's comfortable with it and she thinks they addressed all the comments we had at our previous meeting, I'm comfortable with them submitting it at a later date.
Yep, me too. Mike?
Same deal. Andrew, it's the real deal. I believe it. So.
Carol, I don't know if you did a Mullins on this one?
I did not. I will not
Okay,
be
so-
voting.
Okay, Stefan, any questions?
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Just I was on mute for there for a minute. No questions. I agree. If Andrea's good with it and comfortable with it, I trust in her judgment on that one.
Okay, so do we have any public comment on 670 Washington Street? Seeing none. I'm going to make a motion to issue a permit to work and order conditions for 670 Washington Street. So just with the perpetual condition to clear any debris and no future dumping in the wetlands.
Second.
Is that on the staff report?
It is.
Okay.
Second, so we're gonna do a roll call vote. Stefan, you've been missing on this one, so. Kauffel's aye.
Spady, aye. Oh. You run out of order.
Thomas, I.
Continue. Aye.
There you go.
Okay, and Carol's not eligible to vote. So, so Mr. Crystal, we issued the permit for it. So your engineer will just need to upload that to the site. So.
Thank you, and I apologize for his lack of doing it, and I will
Well,
take.
he had followed up with Andrea, so it's all good. These things happen. He might have gotten uploaded to the wrong application or something. So we're good.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, and good night, and thank you, Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
Good night.
Night.
So,
Come on.
Stefan, do you want me to continue, or you want to take over here, buddy?
It doesn't matter if you want to keep going. Probably the less talking I do, the better over here.
So next up is 10
Users are increasing here.
10 Gilbert
Your
Way.
cases are increasing here.
I just muted Carol.
Okay.
10 Gilbert Way? Is
Yes,
it
that'll
new
be
address?
that.
Gilberta, right?
I'm going to bring up Scott Rogers in 2 forms. And we may have people who want to speak on this one.
Sure.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, ready to go?
Yes, we get that feedback with you when you have those 2 things going though.
Yeah.
We're ready when you are. This is an application that came before us sometime in January, I believe, and then we had it on hold for a little bit, and we are now revisiting it. I think our last meeting, just to sort of circle it around here, there were some stormwater management concerns, as well as some detail about the gravel drive that we wanted addressed. I believe those have been addressed in the current plan, but I'll let you take it from here, Scott.
Sure. So for the record, my name is Scott Rogers, J.K.Holmgren Engineering. Before you tonight is a project that used to be known as 222 Bay Road. It's actually been renamed by the town, or given an address by the town. It's actually 10 Gilberta with an A on the end. Where, as you mentioned, we had a conservation meeting back in January, but after that, we had a meeting with the Conservation Commission where they reviewed and discussed the plans, and we did a drainage analysis associated with the dam on the northerly lot. After review of the documents and discussions with the Conservation Commission, the commission agreed to let the applicant remove the boards within the dam structure. Those photographs and inspections occurred, and a letter was sent to the Conservation Commission, uploaded as well today, regarding that particular part of the adjoining project, if you will. So as you mentioned, back on January 6th, we were before you with this particular project, and there was some issues. The project was continued once until we resolved the issue with the dam. So here we are back before you, and the issues that we did address that were requested was a cross section of the gravel access drive, and that was added to the plans as well. There was a comment, I believe, that was made about snow storage areas, and those were added to the plan. Unfortunately, they are on the eastern side of lot C, if you will, so they're kind of at the end of the drive, and they got cut off on this particular plan. But the idea being that the snow would be pushed down the drive towards the end of lot C out of the buffer zone. A bunch of work was done to create a bioretention area on the project that you can see there. Originally, it wasn't existing there at all. We added that, and then at one point we enlarged it a little bit to accommodate a bigger storm event. So that's been shown and designed to accommodate the increase in existing stormwater flows. And then one of the requests that was received that night was to do a tree inventory plan. We did do that survey, and we provided that plan to the commission. It should be noted there are 30 trees that need to be removed with the particular project here for this lot, 10 Gilbert Way. But we also are adding 13 trees back into the project, and there'll be additional plantings that will be installed along the proposed common drive next to 16 Pheasant Lane. So with that, I'd like to answer any questions that you may have.
Anybody have any questions, or is it just frozen? I can't hear you.
Yeah, I was frozen.
Oh, okay, there you go.
So just as a bit of a summary here, I think that so we've got the stormwater addressed, the retention basin to handle some of the runoff as well, additional amount of runoff. The snow stockpile area has been designated, although it's not on the plan. It's described. And we have a description of the removal of the trees, as well as some of the replacement that you're doing as well there, which trees are remaining and which are being removed, and you're adding in some trees as well. Is that about it?
That's it. Yeah, correct.
Anybody have any questions, Mr. Rogers?
Well, I guess as far as the plantings go, and I'm assuming Carol's probably going to touch on this, just with some of the experience that we've had with plantings kind of going sour, particularly recently on some projects. Do you guys have any specs for for plantings and making sure root balls and everything are at the correct depth, and there's the right soil and mulch being used around the plant bed to ensure success?
I spec'd out the the botanical name and the common name of the plant materials and the sizes. If you guys need me to provide details along with that as far as how you plant the trees and shrubs, I certainly can do that.
So let me see if I'm reading this correctly then, Scott. The 4 trees that are being saved are the 2 over here, these 2 green ones.
Correct.
What are they? Which ones are they?
Those are oak.
At what size?
I believe they're 18. It's kind of hard to read the plan. I believe they're 18s.
Okay, and then this one's being saved?
right, and that's a pine,
That's a pine, and then this one.
correct.
Okay, so the trees that are being saved have the cross hatching inside the circle?
Yeah, almost, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt, Andrew, just wanted to clarify that. I'm looking at the plan.
There's only 4, right?
Correct.
Any others being saved? No?
No.
Okay. Okay, I can add that level of detail.
Okay, so, any other questions?
Right, this is Carol. I'm a little rusty on this one. Do we have any shrubs going in or ground cover?
So, first of all, Carol, did you sign a Mullins on this one?
I did
No, you
not.
don't need a Mullins on this one, okay, that's good. Making sure before we get too far. Go ahead.
Right, so Scott, what do we have for shrubs and ground cover going in?
So, in the bioretention area, we have some shadblow, some winterberry, sweet pepperbush, arrowwood, and sensitive fern.
Wow.
And what's the maintenance plan on those? Monitoring?
I would assume that we'd have to, I don't know if it gets put into the standard conditions, but I would assume we'd have to plant at a time that's, a decent planting time. And then I would assume the commission would want to see some kind of an inspection a year later to see, if we had a survival rate. And if we didn't, we'd probably have to replace, I'm assuming. That's pretty typical, but I don't know if you guys put those into your conditions or not.
Right, so you're saying that you're not coming forward with a maintenance plan?
No, not, it's a single family house. So,
Right, okay. So anytime the soil is disturbed, anytime soil is brought in, there's a very high chance of exotic invasive plants popping up aggressively. So I would be in favor of, and then there's the whole issue of getting these plantings established. I'd like to know what the establishment plan is, how they're going to be watered, especially now, even though the Massachusetts drought map that comes out on Thursdays has shown us not to be in drought. It sure seems like Easton has been missing a lot of the little bit of rain around. So I'm really rooting for these plantings to be very successful, and they're going to need a lot of help to be successful.
So I don't know the exact construction schedule, but even if we were to proceed this fall, we've got to file for a building permit. We've got to get a permit from this commission. We've got to file for a building permit. We've got appeal periods. So it would, at the very earliest, it would be fall, and at the very latest, the planting would have to occur in the springtime. So we prefer to do it when there's, better conditions than August 3rd to plant.
Of course, yep. We'd all like to see that. So I'm kind of interested in, seeing a plan, establishment and maintenance plan.
Yeah, I don't think, and I know my memory is a little fuzzy because I've been out of action for a few months, but I don't think that, requiring maintenance plans is that out of the ordinary for this commission for single family homes and clusters of single family homes. Is that correct, guys?
I think it would be appropriate, given the kind of planning they're gonna do.
Scott, I'm also not seeing, there it is. Okay. I'm gonna bring over the landscape plan details so that Carol and other commissioners can get a good look at it. I'll try to enlarge it because clearly I missed seeing it on the screen. Okay, so here's your schedule. There's your size.
Nice.
This is the guy to ask questions of. He actually knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing those forward, Andrea.
So, do we want to, I mean, I think we should just have them, give us a establishment, planting plan and an establishment and a maintenance plan. Normally, do we look at it 2 years out, Andrea? Two seasons?
Your choice. It's either 3 seasons or 2 seasons, and either of which is likely, or whichever is likely to get 75% replacement.
Survival, yeah.
Yeah, and we generally provide that, right? The maintenance plan itself, and then I guess there's the question of do we want to any specific plans around the actual planting of the plants, or do we want to just stick, or do we want to reserve that for like restoration areas and that kind of thing?
Right, I agree. I would like to see a description of the planting methods that will be implemented.
Well, I mean, I think part of this is that they're on the hook, I mean, they're on the hook for the survival rate no matter what they do. And I mean, that's the way my approach is that, they have to be on the hook.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever plan they have, it makes no difference. Got to stay alive.
Yeah, at least 8 of the 10 plants that they're planning on putting in there need to survive.
Yeah, so Scott, the discussion we're having now around the plant, basically showing a cross section of a plant in the ground, the right depth and mounding and everything like that, is because we've had a lot of plantings that have just been installed terribly. And it's, it creates more work for you guys, it creates more work for us, it just eats up time on everybody's plate, and then you gotta go and plant more things. So it's almost like having a fail-safe, for you guys to make sure that whoever's doing the installation has like a spec to work to. I guess if you feel that you guys can, the contractors you use are going to do the installation of the plants correctly, I mean, you're going to have to follow the maintenance plan. So, you're the engineer. I come from an engineering background. I like to have plans. But maybe it sounds like the commission would lean towards leaving it in your hands as far as if you want to, provide that kind of a detail.
You certainly could. And one thing I would like to point out to you guys is that we did do, a set of plans for planning and zoning board when we did the approval for the special permit Kenbane Drive. So we may have already presented those details to the town, just not to your specific commission, I guess.
Right, Stefan, I would like to add to what you were just saying about the higher the survival rate, the less of everybody's time it takes up in the future.
Yeah.
There's also the aspect is the sooner these plantings become established, the higher chance we have of having a functioning ecosystem.
True. Good point.
As soon as possible. So that's also super important. For me, I think having an annual reporting is that feels kind of risky to me. I'd like to see more, skin in the game, more active management in a plan. So Scott, let's see what you can come up with.
So is this something that we are doing on every single family house now? We're doing maintenance plans and we're monitoring things. Don't forget, I'm not filling in wetlands. I'm not even doing buffer zone restoration. I'm basically providing a bioretention area that's not required by anything other than the Easton Conservation bylaw, and we're doing it at the owner's expense for additional stormwater control, which is not really required. So it just.
But it is required by the town bylaw, so it is required. But that gets glossed over a lot of times, and it drives me nuts. just because it's a town bylaw and you guys work with different towns, you're working in the town of Easton, it's a bylaw, it's a requirement in the town, so it is a requirement, even if it's not at the state level. And yes, it is something that we require regularly on single-family homes, the maintenance plans. This is, you know, this isn't anything out of the ordinary.
All right.
Right, and in addition to that, the plantings in the bioretention area, there are also the new, we have new trees going in up in the area where the trees are coming out.
Correct.
Okay, so I'd like to seek some kind of report or schedule about those also.
Well, so if we're doing the maintenance, plan requirements, we can require that. So Andrea, typically we do annual reporting.
Yes, they go in the first growing season. You can, you often have a report on how the installation went, and then you often get a report after the next growing season and annually after that.
Okay.
I'm
All
just
right.
gonna-
But
sorry.
I mean, Carol, does that sound reasonable? We have a report on the installation basically a quarter later, right? 3 months later, and then annually thereafter.
Right, it's to me, it doesn't seem frequent enough, especially during the first establishment year. You know, I know, Scott, you were thinking of, you know, maybe doing planting this fall or in the spring. You know, anything that goes in the spring, if we have another summer, next summer, like we're having right now, unless, I mean, what I would like to see is new plantings irrigated, you know, with just a surface Netafim drip line on a timer, something like that. Just to, you know, to show an investment in the restoration of the ecological function.
Don, did you have a comment that you wanted to
Yeah,
make?
I just wanted to reiterate that we only have jurisdiction within 100 feet of a wetland. So the trees that would apply would only be within our jurisdiction.
Good point, John.
I also would like to note that the shrubs are going in a bioretention area, so all the surface runoff is being directed toward them.
Yeah, but also, thank you for all that. I'd like to see, you know, what happens, not just getting the plantings established, but what happens when the invasive plants come in. How will they be managed?
I guess the one question we want to ask Scott also is if he identified any invasive plants out there.
I don't believe that Brad Holmes was the one that did our wetlands flagging. I don't believe he did note any invasive species out there.
So no bittersweet, no Japanese knotweed.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
It's been a while since I was out there for the ANRAD, but I don't recall seeing any. I don't recall seeing any large patches or anything of that.
It didn't jump out at me either. I'm not saying it's not out there, but it wasn't in some large area at least a year ago when the ANRAD came up.
Another thing that's come to my attention recently, I'm not sure what kind of soils will be used to construct the retention area, but on its surface, I've become aware that it's an option to bring in certified weed-free soil. So that's something that I would like us to consider. John, what are your thoughts about that?
Weed-free soil, as in what type of soil are we talking about?
There's some kind of certification process that where the soil is tested and shown to be weed-free, weed seed-free.
How costly is that?
That's a good question. How costly is that? How valuable is it?
Is that something I want to, a single family owner to really have to fork over? You know, if it's cost thousands of dollars, I don't think that's something you can ask of the landowner. But, you know, if it was a large, wetland replication area or enhancement area, I would say that would probably be something that we'd be more interested in looking at.
Right. I mean, I appreciate we don't want to burden homeowners, but we also want to have a high functioning system as soon as possible. It's
I understand.
easier to maintain.
So my you know, from my thought is that, you know, I think we need a maintenance, we need to put forth, either condition it or put forth in written form on the plans, a planting plan and a maintenance plan. I don't believe that I need some of the more detailed things that that we haven't done before being suggested here with this particular project. So I think the annual maintenance plan that we've always done is sufficient from my perspective. So.
Good debate.
Any other comments from the board? Do we need anything else from Scott? Do we need to see a new set of plans? Thoughts?
Well, the latest are what, from end of July?
Yeah, they're from about a week ago, 10 days ago.
Has anything changed?
Yeah, the only thing we don't see on this is, and it's on some version of the plan, is this snow
Storage area?
snow storage area, and if we wanted any details on planting, that's the only thing that's missing off at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to note the snow storage area there, because that is critical for if, you know, snow storage gets moved elsewhere, for going back and getting restitution, and planting details. You know, I guess I'll leave it up to the. I'd be comfortable leaving it up to the applicant, just knowing that they have to meet the maintenance requirements. Leaving the plan as is for that, and I'm okay. Personally okay with him adding that detail and getting it to Andrea post approval. You know, getting the permits pending, adding that detail and getting it over to Andrea.
Okay. So when I see if there's any public comment for this particular project, you can either raise your hand or in the Q&A box.
Hand raised, promoting to panelist, Ms. Hooker.
Okay. Ms. Hooker, you can unmute yourself and.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So, I mean, Pheasant Lane obviously still a huge concern with the water.
So can you just, I think those of us familiar, just for the public record, can you identify yourself?
Oh, yes, sorry. Erin Hooker Thomas for Pheasant Lane.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So obviously still a concern with the water. Now that we have the elevations of what they have on Brentwood, Pheasant Lane, I had my elevation certificate and I'm happy to share it with you, Rory, and everyone else. My elevation is 160.40.
What was that?
160.40.
Could you, do you mind sending me a copy?
Absolutely. Actually do it on my phone.
If you recall at the last meeting on the dam, she made reference to the fact that she had a elevation certificate from FEMA, which caught me as odd because it's on their own firm maps. The area is considered outside of flood zone.
Do we have topos on this? We don't, right?
No.
Did we ever ask for topos? I swear we.
Oh, we have topography shown on the plan.
Okay.
Which version?
Show it to me. Oh, really?
Oh, it's a very light layer in the PDF. Very, very light.
Is it? Whoa.
Is this an assumed datum?
It is.
Okay. So this isn't tied into any sort of NGVD or NADV datum. Okay.
It's not.
All right, Andrea, I just sent it to you.
So an assumed datum with land subject to flooding nearby. You might want to have some sort of calculation as to how to compare the two.
Yeah, because I'm kind of concerned that we are significantly low, and then we're taking out 30 trees on top of that, which I already showed you the picture that we have a lot of water that comes from that uplands. And now I'm really concerned because we have the bores being removed that were X amount of feet, and now more water from trees being removed coming down our direction, which I already have a French drain. I can't do much else to my house.
So just to clarify, that the boards resulted in a little over half an inch elevation change in the water, not feet. So and it is 1,500 feet away. So I just want to be clear on the record of what it is. I'm not minimizing the water problems in this neighborhood because it is an absolute issue. So
Right. And I'm just concerned because we are 15 feet lower than that area. What's that going to do to the water coming in our direction?
Well, did you say your elevation was 160?
Yep.
I'm seeing the elevations on. Or are you referring back up to the dam that was at Brentwood?
Yeah, the dam at Brentwood, they had elevations of 176 down to 174, but where my elevation's 160, you know, anywhere from 160 to 166, I'm a little concerned that we're so much less, and that would make sense why we have water that just sits on our street even days after it stopped raining, which causes issues obviously in the winter. And now we're removing more trees to send more water down to our street. So I'm kind of curious, like, who's going to make sure that the person that buys this house doesn't remove trees, and who's going to deal with the street issues with flooding and everything else that happens? Because that area specifically, I don't know why the water stays from Walter's house, which is, I think, 12 Pheasant Lane or 8 Pheasant Lane, all the way down to where they're proposing these houses being built.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
So a couple things. One is, you know, we are adding the bioretention area. So currently that whole watershed behind 16 Pheasant Lane, including lot B and C, basically just sheet flows right into the wetland with no control at all. So we are directing the stormwater towards that bioretention area and controlling the peak runoff rates. So that should be an improvement there as well. And then the other thing that we found when we did the drainage study for the dam was the town has been really good about maintaining catch basins, but oftentimes other things other than catch basins will get overlooked, such as drainage manholes or pipes or head walls. So I don't have a specific area to point to, but I would not be surprised if the pipe that leaves this watershed and goes under Bay Road and Pheasant Lane had some kind of siltation built up and within it.
That's funny you mentioned that, because that was my next area of concern, is the culvert that we have behind 224 Bay Road and Pheasant Lane is tiny. So is that going to be increased to actually handle the amount of water that's going to be coming that way? Because there was a plan that I found online that was Easton's. It was the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness, and it was from December of 2018. And on page 5, it actually referenced the culvert and localized flooding of 224 Bay Road as that was an area of concern. And now we're sending more water down there.
Yeah,
And that
I would
does
say you're
not-
not
It's part of
saying
that
more
study.
water. That's a misnomer. That's not a true statement.
the culvert.
No, it is a true statement, Scott, that the area at the base of Pheasant Lane
I've
was
watched it.
identified as localized flooding in the municipal vulnerability preparedness plan.
Correct, but we're not sending more water from this project down that direction
How aren't you?
because we have a fire retention area that's handling all that stormwater flow.
Did you say you're up at Ramblewood?
Ms. Hooker, Ms. Hooker Thomas, I think, are you at Pheasant Lane, 4 Pheasant Lane?
I've lived at 4 Pheasant Lane
Oh.
for 39 years and watched the culvert fill up and back up. And now I feel that this is going to make it more of an issue because we are at a lower elevation than the uplands.
Stefan,
Yeah, right.
but just, is it, I'm just trying to figure out the elevations on the plan show the elevations at like 100.
Right.
Hers at 160. What's the,
So I'd have to have Greg reference it, but yeah, the elevations are anywhere from 160 to the highest is, this is above the ground. So my house starts at 168. That's above the foundation. That's where my house starts.
Rory, just to clarify, is that this plan is not on any datum. It's assumed datum. So for instance, what you see for elevations here isn't what's going to relate to what Ms. Hooker Thomas is talking about.
how do we use that piece of data at all? We can't.
We can't make the correlation between having one plan not on the same datum. So for instance, the applicant needs to provide us information on that datum to prove basically that it's not going to have any impact to the down gradient person that's on the call.
What would the standard datum used be?
The standard datum would either be whatever, I mean, for instance, to check out firm, you could do the, you could have it either be on NGVD 29 or NADD 88. And I don't remember what the firm maps usually use for a datum. It's been a long time.
I mean, I might have to email this to you because I'm having trouble moving it from one system to the other so that I could put it on the screen. But the elevation certification acknowledges that there's no base flood elevation and that she's in zone AO. Using the same firm map, it says that it's NAVD 1988 datum. And if there's no firm elevation, I'm confused. They gave a whole lot of information on the building elevations.
Yeah, because they were saying that my back left corner of my garage was in a flood zone. That's why I was paying flood insurance. So I had an engineer come out and record all the data and sent it to them. And we finally just got out of a flood zone this last month in the end of July.
So the certification gives a benchmark utilized and used the same NAVD 1988 datum.
So I'm thinking that it would be, is this for pheasant?
Information.
Yep, for pheasant.
Okay, so how far away is Fort Pheasant from this location?
2 houses over.
Okay, so I'm thinking that, for instance, to kind of wrap our heads around this, we can ask the applicant to confirm that, for instance, the elevations are not going to be an issue, and kind of get them on the correct datum for us to really evaluate and assess this further, using that benchmark that was recorded on Fort Pheasant.
Should we either,
And I will send that to Scott. I don't think you want me to post it online, do you? Ms. Hooker? Ross?
Oh, it's fine. I mean, the data is the data, so that's fine.
So the other thing that
of your larger scale plan. Which one is your property?
4.
4 is this one.
So yeah, it goes the house that they're gonna tear down, then it's the Bridges, then it's Walters, then it's mine. We're going towards Bay Road, which goes.
Yeah, and then there's one between you and Bay Road.
Yeah, 224 Bay Road.
Right. Okay. So
And that's where
you
the culvert is.
you're a lot closer to where the mapped line
Oh yeah.
of the flood zone is located. If the board can follow writing done in toothpicks, the proximate zone of the floodplain with no base elevation, you can probably see more clearly with the linear distance between the two lines is around the.
Yeah, all I see is a gray screen, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
it's
see
all
what?
All I see is a gray screen.
Gray. Oh,
Yeah.
remove. Oh, okay. Stop share, start again. It's because I went over the screen. It's because I went over the other one. I thought I could just go over it. I'm so new to this. Okay, can you see it now?
Not yet.
No.
Okay, how about now?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so here's the flood zone on firm, as identified on the firm map. You can see it best by the distances off of the stream. Here's Aaron Hooker Thomas property, and here's the property that's being developed. Is that correct, Scott? Is the property being developed?
That's correct. And just for record, just to give a context of things, we're about 437 feet away from the floodplain.
So where do we want to go from here? Suggestions from anybody?
Well, I certainly would like to have elevations that we could compare to something standardized. I guess I didn't realize that we had elevations on here that we couldn't necessarily compare to, a standard state map, let's say. So I'd personally like to see that. Scott, do you have any calculations that show the bioretention can handle the difference between the trees removed and the trees being planted, as far as any standards for what trees can suck up as far as water?
So what we did was we analyzed the existing watershed.
Yep.
And looked at the, the peak runoff rate heading towards that particular design point, if you will. And then we looked at the post-construction watershed, which consists of, a gravel area, grass, less woods, obviously, because there are trees coming out. And then houses will be taken care of through leaching basins. But we looked at the proposed watershed, which you would expect would be an increase in peak runoff rates and volumes. But when you basically route through HydroCAD, that new watershed through the bioretention area, it shows you that, using a conservative infiltration rate, it shows you that the bioretention area handles that, 100-year storm. I mean, it's right up there. I'm not going to tell you it's, got 2 feet of freeboard. Keep in mind, it's a relatively shallow basin. And, as Mrs. Hooker pointed out, groundwater is, not super deep. So, it's 2 feet above groundwater, which is recommended by the Mass Stormwater Regs. But it's not a deep basin, and it's a pretty good size, but it's not this huge basin. So, but it does handle the peak runoff rate.
And to your point, you have the 3 dry wells coming off of this particular house.
That's correct, and there'd be one for Lot C as well, and for Lot A as well. I will certainly provide you guys with a change in the topography, but I guess, I can tell you that this particular area is higher than 4 Pheasant Lane. I'm not sure if it's 4 feet higher or 6 feet higher or 5.2, but I don't think, other than me converting the topo, it's going to show you that, yes, it's higher. And that's really not going to, I don't think, tell us much more than what we're talking about right now. I think the concern that I'm gathering is that there's water going towards that area. And I've been telling you that we're going to be improving that by putting in that bioretention area. So, but I'll certainly do it if that's the commission's desire.
So from my perspective, and it was actually one of the questions that you just addressed in an anecdotal sense, is do we have those calculations?
I did not provide any kind of drainage calculations. I certainly can summarize it in a form that would let you know, existing versus proposed, and it would show you a clear graph, for instance, of that watershed, where it stands today, where it would stand without the bioretention area, and then where it would stand with the bioretention area, and the elevations that, each particular storm that you look at, like the 2, 10, 25, and 100, what elevations would build up in that bioretention area. So I could provide that for you in like a tabular format, which would probably help sort of answer some questions.
Yeah, I think it gets us to the point where if we're not making this situation worse for this neighborhood, I think that's what we're trying to get to. So I think if you can provide us the backup on that in some form, a table sounds good to me, so that we can look at it and say, yes, we believe that this bioretention basin plus the drainage systems you have for the homes themselves can handle the runoff without adding to the water situation, then I think that makes it something we can understand and move forward with. I mean, that's just my thought.
I agree.
Yeah, I like that idea too.
I like that a lot.
Same here.
And I also just want to note, I don't want to conflate this and the Brentwood Dam and the. I mean, I know it is all a system, but the reason we held this off for the Brentwood Dam is because we wanted to come to some resolution there before permitting this, and we came to a resolution there, and now we're moving on to this one, and we're not entirely done with the whole dam situation because DPW is going to kind of clear out the silt in the culvert up there. Now, I know when we had the emergency septic situation down at the end of Pheasant Lane, what was that, a couple of years ago? We cleared out the entrance to the culvert that goes under Bay Road. But Andrew, do you recall if they ever cleaned out the pipe itself? I don't think so.
I don't believe so, but I did meet with Jay Kasijian, the highway supervisor on site, and is aware of the situation.
Can we add it to our list of hey Greg, how you doing?
When was the last time I helped you out, Greg?
It's us, your favorite friends over on the Koska. We've got another pipe for you.
Honestly, and it's not a point of conversation for this moment, just to put in your head that there might be value to the commission and the town establishing a stormwater revolving fund where as waiver requests looking for public benefits that might affect the situation could fund
That's not a bad idea.
improvements in town.
Yeah, and then since it is in the MVP plan, maybe maybe that's something we can go after some state funding, if state funding can survive COVID.
Okay, so Scott, do you think it's clear what we need, and how quickly do you think we can get that? Because we have another meeting on the 10th.
A week from today?
Yeah.
I'd probably defer to the next one if that's possible.
Is that the 24th?
24th.
Okay, well, I want to leave it up to you, Scott.
Just for the person taking minutes, can you clarify what you're asking for as additional information?
We want standard data for the topo. We want to see calculations for the stormwater runoff at the standard storm events, calculations pre and post construction. And we want to have, we'll give you the suggestion that you put on some details for the planting so that they have the best survival rate possible. Whoever your contractor is doing the work, and probably just, you might as well include it on the plan, just the maintenance plan for those plantings. So that we know that you're gonna give us an annual report for 2 years, 75% survival rate. Did I miss anything?
Snow removal.
Oh yeah, make sure we have details of where the snow storage area is in Lot C.
Right. Ms. Hooker brought up her concern about taking down large trees and the volume of water that large trees take up every year. Is that something we want to address?
So I think that'll be addressed in Scott's calculations showing the current state and then the proposed build state.
Correct. That's the intention, is that we what the changes are going to be for the
and then Andrea, maybe to help make Scott's life a little easier, can we send him our standard maintenance plan?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I can do that.
Awesome. Thank you.
I just posted the elevation cert that we received 3 times to Permitize. But you aren't going to know that because I'm getting rid of 2 of them. Okay.
But it's on the record now.
But it's now on the record.
So do we have any additional public comment for 10 Gilberto Way? Okay, so seeing none, I am going to make a motion to continue 10 Gilberto Way to August 24th.
Second.
All those in favor, roll. Yeah, Cotino second, exactly. Roll call. Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
Spady, aye.
Thomas, aye.
Cotino, aye.
Okay. So we will see you on the 24th, Scott.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks.
So the next one up, you want to take over here, Stefan, or what?
Oh, it doesn't matter. You're rolling. I think I like watching you work. You're doing good.
Okay. I'll get my critique later.
Nice try.
7 Kenbane Drive. I think this is Mr. O'Shaughnessy's here representing the applicant. Do you have anybody else with you? Yeah, Garrett's here too.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, see me, whatever?
We can hear you. You want me to promote?
I got him promoted and now Garrett. You want to take, and Kathy Humphrey is here, but I don't know if she wants, I don't know if she wants to be part of the public or just be an observer.
Okay, so do you want us to bring up plans here? You guys want to present yourselves? What do you want us to do? Oh, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now? All
Yeah,
right.
there we go.
I've done this before too. Andrea, could you bring up Garrett's recent plan? And then I'd just like to give the commission some quick background as to what happened while she's doing that. I got involved in this project a couple of weeks ago on behalf of Robert Camo and Kathleen O'Toole. They asked me to get involved. So my first call was to Andrea. We scheduled a site visit for 2 weeks ago from tomorrow. In the meantime, at that site visit, I invited Garrett to come up so we could all see what was going on at the site. I had watched your last meeting. I was aware that you folks had wanted some restoration work because of the driveway that had encroached, the new driveway that wasn't shown on the original plan, but it's there now. And you guys wanted some restoration work. So we met out there, and there was a couple components. There was a rain garden in the back that we looked at, in the back of the house to the north. There was a shed to the rear of the property that was in the 50-foot buffer. There was an old gazebo along the driveway that had been removed. And at the very beginning of the driveway by the cul-de-sac, there had been, we think, was originally some wetland seed mix of some sort. So after that meeting, Garrett had prepared a restoration plan in a report that I know is uplighted to Permitize. I don't know if you folks have had a chance to look at it, but I think what makes sense is maybe if Garrett, if you're here, you can kind of jump in and go through your thought process in how you prepared this plan.
Yes, I certainly can. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So basically, we met out on the site with Andrea, and we looked over the areas that were in approximately within the 50-foot buffer zone. And we identified 3 basic areas that equal approximately 20,000 square feet. We have the northern area, which is the yellow, the northern area, which is about 3,200 square feet. We have the eastern area, also in yellow, which is approximately 9,600 square feet. These 2 areas, we are proposing to put in a showy wildflower mix in wildflower. So basically, we're going to have these 2 areas become wildflowers. The northern area currently has the shed located towards it's in the 50-foot buffer, the 50-foot buffer zone. So I don't know if you can see it. There's an area that's in sort of a magenta color. Yes, right there. That's where the shed would be relocated, which will be a few feet outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. So we're going to pull it out of the area, and then that area would be marked by the surveyors as far as the 50-foot buffer zone. We would rototill that area and then seed it with the New England showy wildflower mix. And we'd also do the same for the eastern restoration area. So the other area that we have, which is the area that was previously earmarked for ecological restoration, is to the south, and it's in green. This area, we were proposing there currently is a native rise and fescues, native grasses in this area that I feel we can, and there were a few asters, looked like some goldenrods, so we had some native plants already there. I think in this area would be best to mow this area down to approximately 2 inches instead of actually rototilling it, and then apply seed, which would be New England conservation mix. and also New England wildflower mix. So because the New England conservation mix has a lot of plants that provide seeds to a lot of the bird species, but the wildflower mix does as well. So I thought we'd mix both of them, and it would kind of go along with the theme of the showy wildflower mix above. But we also wanted it to look somewhat natural. So what we're proposing is to plant 31 shrubs consisting of sweet pepper bush, high bush blueberry, witch hazel, and inkberry. Now the inkberry would be located along the western portion of the restoration area, which would more or less just mark the edge of it, and it would give it some landscape, plantings effect, but it would still be natural. And then we'd use the sweet pepper bush integrated with the high bush blueberry to the larger shrubs, which would be the witch hazel. And we also provided 13 trees, black cherry and red maple intermixed along the eastern portion of the ecological restoration area, the southern ecological restoration area. Now, all of these are native plants that I identified while we were on the site, except for the inkberry. And I wanted to also mention for the other two areas, the northern and eastern, we would put down weed-free straw once it's seeded to help protect the seeds, since we're going to rototill. I felt that wasn't necessary in the southern area if we cut the herbaceous layer down to 2 inches and leave it. Also, another note, we would delineate the edge of the conservation areas, all 3 of them, with permanent markers, and they would consist of a brass survey medallion to be located in the middle of a 6x6 landscaping timber that is installed vertically into the ground. Now, I've seen it done where you could use the 6x6 landscape timber by itself, or you can, when you dig out the area, you can also put a small amount of, a bag or half a bag of concrete mix in the hole when you put the timber in. And it's set approximately 14 to 18 inches in the ground, and it sticks up approximately 1 inch or 1 to 2 inches above the ground. So you can see it, but it's not, it's aesthetically pleasing instead of having a large post located, along the whole edge. And also, what was my other comment? I think that's it. Does anyone have any questions?
So the initial question I think we asked for last time is, what is the square footage of the area of the driveway that was not on the original plan?
Of the driveway, I did not calculate the driveway.
I'm only looking for the part that is in the within the 100-foot buffer. So I mean, it probably is. I mean, I'm just guessing based upon something. I mean, it's probably shouldn't guess.
Yeah, I'm actually looking for distances myself because I didn't calculate. I knew you asked for it, but I was pretty sure it was less than the 20,000 square feet he was offering.
There's no question it's less than. I think it's probably even less than 10,000 when I look at it. I'm taking a wild guess, but I'm not the expert here. So.
The plan is at a 40 scale.
I guess one question I have for Garrett is, did you happen to do any soil investigations while you were out there?
I didn't really dig anything up. I looked at the surface, but that was it.
Okay, what did it look like out there? Because I haven't been out there.
It's a sandy loam.
Okay.
So it was I didn't really get too much of the color because it was on the surface. I just kicked it with my foot a little bit, scratched.
Mhm.
So it was a sandy loam.
Would you say it kind of looks like Windsor?
It could be a Windsor.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm looking at Mass Oliver right now. It looks like there was a lot of Freetown for the wetland.
Yeah, it's definitely not Freetown.
Yeah, that's what I came under the impression of as well. But yeah, I guess, for instance, I'd be interested to see, because some of those plants that you're suggesting, they need that kind of, I know you said you're going to till it. How much are you going to till it?
I would till well for the seed mix, the straw will break down somewhat, but you're right. There is an A layer that's there as well. So the A layer should have enough nutrients for a wildflower mix.
Right, and I understand for the seed mixture. I'm thinking about the
You're
plant.
thinking for the shrubs.
Yeah.
In that area, we're not rototilling, but we can mix in some weed-free topsoil.
Okay.
That can be done as far as the planting prep. I don't know who's being used to do that with the landscaper. Typically, that's something I work out with the landscaper to make sure that it has enough nutrients. In any areas that are bare around the base, throw a little bit of mulch or weed-free straw.
Understood. Yeah, I have a feeling similarly to the previous project that was we talked about. The commission's going to want something similar for a monitoring plan for the lake of the species and whatnot.
Yes, I proposed a 2-year monitoring plan.
Right.
And it's more detailed than that. There's a reporting and if you didn't hear the last conversation, you might want to go into a level of detail, Garrett.
Okay. As far as the monitoring, I would actually be on site. Why don't I go from the planting? I would actually be on site to make sure that the plants are located in their proper location. As shown on the planting plan, I usually set the plants myself at their planting location. If it's a crew that I have not worked with in the past, I will go through as far as the proper planting depths to make sure that the plant isn't too deep or too shallow. I also inspect once they bring, either if it's a nursery truck or if the landscapers go and get the plants themselves. I make sure once they arrive, count each species, make sure we have the proper number of plants per species. Also, I evaluate the health, see if they were beat up, if I see any insect infestation or damage. So I look over the plants before we do anything with them, and then when we count them, we actually separate them into each species and we put them aside so they're easier to pick up from that species group to locate into the planting area. The next step, once they're planted, we go through, make sure they're watered, make sure that they don't look too shocked or stressed, make sure each one has several. We have to do it with 5-gallon buckets or watering cans, make sure they get several containers per plant prior to leaving the site for the end of the workday. And then as far as the monitoring, I usually take a quick look within a week or so of the planting, make sure the plants are okay. I will then notify Andrea so she can notify the commission. And then if it's really dry, like it is now, I would make sure that watering continues and that also additional monitoring continues. If, once we have a decent amount of rain and everything looks healthy, then I would curtail the monitoring. If everything's okay, I would curtail it to the annual monitoring report, which would occur at the end of growing season. I actually put dates in for the monitoring report for the end of September through, I believe, mid-October. So the end of our growing season is approximately October 21st. So it was within that time frame. Then the reporting would be, I set up a couple of sample plot locations, and I will do percent coverage in those areas. I will also evaluate each plant, especially with the shrubs and the trees, to make sure that we don't have a loss. I will put flagging on any dead ones, take photos of them, note them on the plan, so that we are able to maintain our 75+% survival rate. And then all of this information gets provided in the annual monitoring report. I also don't only evaluate with a sample plot. I do, I evaluate the entire, each area. I take a lot of photos from the plots and overall view of the restoration areas. So that's what it would consist of.
Okay, I think we got that covered.
So that driveway area was about, based on my rough calculations, was 7,000 to 8,000 square feet. And we're providing 20,000 square feet of restoration, Garrett, is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I would guess it was around that number somewhere. Thank you for that. The one other question that came up, and I know it was addressed with the Board of Health, and I don't know, it's really not our area here, is that the driveway does go over the septic system. And I'm a little bit concerned about that.
Right. Andrea she had sent me some correspondence that had been sent to Kristen at the Board of Health, and there's a couple things. Number one is I would be concerned if the system was in failure, the leaching field was in failure. It's not. They have a Title V from June that shows everything passes Title V. So I'm comfortable with that respect. The other component is this is outside of the 100-foot jurisdiction. So that's really a Board of Health issue, not a Conservation Commission issue. But for the passing system, I think it's okay. I don't see any issues. It's been there for 14 to 15 years. Hasn't failed yet. I just don't see any impact from the driveway. I mean, it probably wasn't the best way to do it, but it's not in failure.
Any other commissioners have any questions, comments?
No, I have nothing down. That was great.
Questions, concern? Carol, you're on mute, maybe?
Yeah, got it. So a few questions. Getting back to John's question about soils, the more northern area, basically you're wanting to make a meadow there, is that right?
Yes, we would plant showy wildflower seed mix in that area.
Right. So what's your experience with planting, how long does it take to really get a successful meadow established?
Well, if I'll use our current situation, if we were to seed it this fall to get it going and to meet requirements, that we under our plan, we would do seeding now, and then we would seed it again in the spring. Usually if you seed it a few times, it'll start to go. I have seen, this seed mix, it does pretty well. It depends. I've had some of my clients just throw it in and not do any preparation, or an area where the topsoil's been completely decimated and they really didn't use much topsoil. And out in the open where there's no, very dry areas with a lot of sun exposure. And I've seen it not do so well. But in areas like this, where we're trying, we have an A layer soil, and we put the straw on it, and if it gets watered, it should do fine, especially after 2 seedings.
Right. So there probably used to be an O layer there. So why is a meadow a good restoration approach?
There probably was an O layer, but even in a lot of meadows, I don't find an O layer. I do find an A layer. It could be 6, 8 inches deep or deeper if it's plowed, an AP layer. But I don't typically find an O layer in meadows.
Right. So but that is so close to the 50-foot buffer that it's not very common to see a meadow, a natural meadow that close to a buffer. Is that right? what I'm getting at, why a meadow and not trees and shrubs that would more closely mimic what had been there as far as a functioning ecosystem?
Well, it was more to give the appearance of a backyard while still having a natural area. We are providing nectaring sites and sites for, transient or migratory birds and insects. So where it's not forested, we're swapping out one type of habitat for another.
Right. So
I don't foresee an issue with shading in regards to the wetlands because it is heavily forested along the backside. Trees are approximately 25, 30 feet tall. There were pines and it was mixed with some oak. So I don't see an issue with shading in regards to the wetlands. And again, it would still provide habitat. We have our shrubs and herbaceous shrub and tree layers surrounding that area. So in this area, if we had a small opening, it would just give opportunity for some other species in addition to the forest species.
okay, and so you're gonna rototill that area. That's gonna bring up a lot of the seed bank that's there.
It could, but I believe that area was naturally vegetated. I didn't see a lot of invasives here. There are a couple of glossy buckthorn, and those should be just pulled out along the edges when it's, once it's we start the ecological restoration.
All right. So what's going to keep?
And they're very small ones.
Right. So how are you going to manage the invasives that do come in? There are many invasive plants that love disturbed areas.
Well, there are. I do a lot of restoration work, especially with Japanese knotweed and black locust. Right now, I'm doing I do a lot of the 4 or 5 acre restorations. My experience has been in this area, I don't see a lot of what I see in some of those other areas where we have a seed bank that's been around for, say, 30, 40, 50 plus years. In this area, I do see some glossy buckthorn, not a lot, which Easton, as I'm sure you know, has a lot of glossy buckthorn. So I did see a few here, but it wasn't a infestation, or they weren't the dominant species. As far as the management of this, included in my ecological restoration plan was an invasive plant species section where, as part of the monitoring, I do evaluate to see if any of these seedlings are occurring, such as the oriental bittersweet, the glossy buckthorn, if for some reason multiflora rose show up, or Japanese knotweed. So those are concerns, and if I see any of them, I will weed it when I'm there. I usually include that in my monitoring, and if it is an infestation, then I will note that, contact Andrea in an email and provide a letter showing what species I found in photos and say, this is what needs to be done here. We will enact a weeding program. Typically, I don't use herbicide unless it is Japanese knotweed. That's the only time, and we only do basal treatment, and I will only do that at the end of the season when the plant is just before it shuts down, so that it'll draw all of the poison into its for storage in its roots with the sugars over the winter. So that's the most successful way to combat those types of invasives. So that's what we would do here if necessary, but I don't like using glyphosate, Roundup type herbicides, and I certainly don't like using them with foliar spraying. So we try to minimize that as much as possible and weed where appropriate, which is most often the case.
All right, I see it. Thank you. I see in your plan at 4.9 spot treatment.
Yes.
I would like to see in writing more of what you just said, because spot treatment to me, there's a correlation with that with a pesticide application. So if you're going to be managing
spot treatment, okay. maybe I need to clarify. Spot treatment would be typically when you have an area like this and you rototill it, you disturb it, you'll see, you know, a glossy buckthorn may pop up here or over there. You'll see a few. That's what spot treatment, that's what is meant by spot treatment in the report, meaning that, you know, if I see one of these seedlings pop up, we'll weed them immediately so it doesn't become, an infestation.
Right, so you'll weed it by hand.
Yes.
Right, so if you could put that in writing, that would be great. As far as monitoring for invasives in that same spot treatment 4.9, you say
Yes.
you will monitor annually. What's your evidence that that is frequent enough?
Well, within a year, you typically are not going to get a complete takeover of an area unless for some reason it's something like black swallowwort, and it's just there's a huge seed bank, viable seed bank adjacent to the area. Other than that, I typically don't see, a complete takeover of an area within one growing season.
Okay.
You'll typically find, the other area, another plant that could do that would be purple loosestrife if it was in one area and another area just was opened up but that would be an aquatic system, which we don't have here. So
Right.
Those are the two that I see that happen, or water hyacinth, that's another one. But those are aquatic plants.
Right. So for what period of time are you suggesting monitoring?
The standard 2 years is what we've proposed.
Okay. And so even though that's a standard, why is that good enough for to establish a high functioning system there?
Well, we are having herbaceous species. They will be dominant, and they should be within 2 seasons if they're seeded properly. They should take, and you should have your 75% coverage. After that, I would think the homeowner would want to continue that, not look out at something that, if there's additional seeding needed, I would think they would want to do that.
Sure.
You can put it in your order of conditions that it would be done constantly thereafter. But that's the only thing that I could foresee.
Right. Thank you.
You're
Oh,
welcome.
what about watering? You talked about, I don't know, using watering cans or 5-gallon buckets.
Yes, that would be on the herbs and the shrubs and tree species.
Right. So where's that water coming from?
The home.
By a hose? It's a ways away from the home.
Yes, but there's only 31 shrubs and 13 trees, so that can be done in an hour or a couple hours of watering
Okay.
of that area.
With a 5-gallon bucket running back and forth to the hose, 31 trees and shrubs.
I don't know of a water source down there, so that could be an issue.
Right.
That's what I would suggest. Usually, if it's a landscaper doing it, they throw them in the back of a pickup truck and drive them down if they don't have a watering. Some have a watering truck if it's a large scale operation.
So how's it sound to make a plan about that?
I think it's going to depend upon the landscaper. That's why it's not included. We have to find out who we're working with to make that determination.
Okay. I also noticed in the design of the shrub and tree layout, it's very linear rather than having, let's say a clump of 3 inkberry and a clump of 3 clethra. I'm just curious, that's not random like nature is. So why do you have it that way? Or why is that?
With the inkberry, the Iox glabra, that was done just to more or less it's almost to delineate, in addition to the markers, to delineate the edge of that ecological restoration area. That's why there's a row of those along the front. As far as the sweet pepper bush, that usually likes a little bit more sunlight, so we kept more of those along that edge as well. Where the high bush blueberry, it's not as light dependent, and especially not the witch hazel. That usually grows under, can grow well under a pretty dense sapling and tree layer. So That's why it was done that way. And it was also because it's larger going back in size, going back into the tree line.
Right.
So they're
Okay.
established in heights.
Okay. It's interesting when you were saying that Clethra wants more sun. You know, in the woods that I frequent, there are a lot of wetlands, and,
Yes.
and there are the Clethra is blooming right now, and it grows in pretty wet places.
Oh, it does. It's facultative species, but it also, if you give it a little bit more sunlight, it has a lot more, as far as its flowers are much more brilliant or prolific.
Okay. So one thing that I see that I would like to see in the mix is black willow, because that is a keystone plant.
Black willow, though, that's a pretty wet plant. This is a pretty dry area.
Okay. Do you have
go ahead.
Sorry. Do you have a native willow that would do well there?
I don't know. I don't know of any willow that's going to grow in this kind of environment.
No.
Sorry, Carol.
That's tough. I think it's even we're on the edge. I think even for the red maple. I think it's going to be tough because it is a sandy loam soil.
Right. Okay. And the only other question, maybe this is too detailed, but you know, I think it would be great to mulch the trees and shrubs.
Yes.
That would go in an order of conditions, or it's just.
That would be fine. That's what I mentioned. It either would be mulch or weed-free straw on top.
Right. I saw the thing about the straw, but you know, mulch is usually 2.5 to 3 inches, and that's.
Yes. I didn't include that with the shrubs or the trees because I want to find out what the landscaper typically can use, and I want to make sure it doesn't have any invasives in it. So I want to make sure the stuff, wherever they're getting it from, whoever their supplier is, it's decent stuff. So
right.
that's important. That's the biggest problem. And you've mentioned that earlier in the other hearing. That is the biggest problem that I find is that through soil or through mulch is invasive plant species being introduced.
You bet. Big problem.
Yes.
So we would, you know, for mulch, maybe something double shredded and something that's not recycled construction debris.
Yeah. Yes. No.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. No further questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the commission? Any public comment on 7 Kenbane Drive? Either raise your hand or submit a question in the Q&A. My goal here would be to find a way to condition this so that we don't have to have them come back again. This is already their second hearing on this issue. So I would like to try and condition this in such a way. Carol, did you Mullins this or no?
No.
Okay, so you're not eligible to vote here. So, any suggestions on the conditions? So we want to monitor for invasives, which I believe that's in your report, correct, Garrett?
Yes, that's correct.
Do we want to add something about mulching the trees in some manner? Any thoughts from anybody? I mean, I'm more on I want the results as opposed to, I want them to, it seems to me Garrett's incredibly invested in having this be a successful a project. And, you know, Garrett's done dozens and dozens of these in Easton, so that he comes with a pretty good reputation. So I'm not suggesting he gets a free pass, but you know, certainly we look at his restoration plan report, his plan, and it's pretty darn detailed. So
well, should we condition it? You know, mulching of restoration areas per environmental engineer's discretion, as long as it's not construction debris.
It's okay for me. Yeah.
I mean, just a CYA. You know, I mean, Carol makes a good point. You know, I mean.
So may I, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, please.
So Garrett, just so I understand, so I thought you had said a few moments ago, you'd like the either or option, the straw or the mulch, depending on what your, the contractor is used to, is that right?
That is correct.
So if we were to do a condition, if we could do it that way, I think that would give us some flexibility as well as whoever eventually does the work, so whatever works best for all.
Garrett, quick question along those lines. I guess specifically around the plants themselves.
Yes.
Do you have any opinion on mulch versus straw around the plant specifically? Like, just like above the root ball, mulch versus straw, as opposed to just the general ground cover throughout the rest of the restoration area?
Here, not necessarily. If it's somebody doesn't take a couple little sprigs of straw and throw them on, if it's put down in it's applied basically liberally around the base of the plants, and it covers the bare area, and then it's seeded, and it's mulched and seeded, it should be fine. Or the use of the straw. So it just depends. Mulch holds a little more water, I feel, than the straw does. But if there's enough straw, it will hold a decent amount of water. It'll keep it moist. So I've used both and been successful with both.
How do we feel about ground cover per field engineer's direction?
I'd recommend that we use, just require that there be weed-free straw or mulch.
Yeah.
Right.
Sounds good to me.
Great.
Agreed.
Thanks, Garrett.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I also ask that you give a little attention to the shed being moved. It's going to be out of the 50 foot by a few feet. I noticed, like most people who have sheds, there's a ladder behind it that I could see, and so he's probably using, the back of the shed for purposes. So you might want to consider a work area around the shed when you decide how far you want it relocated.
Andrea, I set it at about 3 feet. Do you think that will suffice, or do you think we need to move it further? I've given about 3 feet behind the shed.
Probably need more than that, I think.
Okay.
Maybe 5 feet, and then can we just make sure that one of the markers gets behind the shed too, so we have
Yes.
that delineation?
Yes.
Great. I guess maybe we should just condition that too.
Okay, so someone want to make a motion, or you want anybody up for it? So I will make a motion to issue a permit for work. And there is a waiver on this, by the way, and thank you, Mr. O'Shaughnessy, for submitting that idea.
You're welcome. That was sorry, it was a last minute thing. It just
No.
just going through today.
So I was comfortable with it. I mean, since this is mostly a restoration, I was very comfortable with the waiver, the way it was submitted. So I don't have any questions on the way. I just want to get that on the record that there is a waiver, and he did it, in my opinion, address all the points here. So
I agree with you, Rory. I mean, like you said, it's a restoration. We're kind of going through the motion on that one.
Yep. So I'm going to make a motion to issue a permit for work and order of conditions for 7 Kenbane Drive, noting what is in the staff report. Just note that the shed relocation should be 5 feet behind the shed, and at least one marker, one permanent marker shall be located directly behind the shed as a reminder. And we want to leave the mulching decision to the field engineer in the field to maximize the success of the plantings. Did it cover anything else?
Just amending that last one, leaving it the decision between weed-free straw or mulch for the ground cover.
So amended. Do I have a second?
Catino second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Lundin's abstain.
Spady, aye.
Thomas, aye.
Catino, aye.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
No.
Okay, so next up is 10 Dongary Road. So do we have anybody here for 10 Dongary? I don't think we do.
No.
Dongary. I couldn't help pronounce it Dongary. Dongary.
Reminds me of Dungaroos.
That's why.
I lived on Dongary when I first moved to Houston. So
Ah, there you go. So you're a Dongary OG.
I just got that.
and there's a funny coincidence about that anyway, but I will leave it off the record. So, Andrea, there were some concerns about this today that I saw come up. So, 10 Dongary, this was a septic system, a small apartment building at the end of Dongary Road. It's right up against the wetlands right there. There's a drainage ditch behind it, pretty healthy, and from a wetland standpoint. But did you find this? Did you hear back from them on permanent markers? You couldn't find them.
I couldn't find them. I did not hear back. I know that by practice, they tend to put their markers in when they survey in the wetland line. When they survey in the limit of work line. And given the height of the herbaceous cover, I probably just didn't, go looking for them. More importantly, I didn't find those blueberry bushes, and given the height of the herbaceous cover, I didn't go looking for them.
Right.
I can say that there's no need for, the wetland line is pretty well protected by all that herbaceous cover.
Yeah, sure is, right?
And they had the plants going inside the woodland line.
So without the either the applicant's representative or the applicant here, it's hard to know here. I mean, I don't know that the permanent markers are going to make or break this particular thing, other than it's a condition that wasn't conditioned, so which is a concern.
I mean, do we push and give them a week to have somebody?
Yeah, why don't we just, since we have a meeting next week, why don't we just continue this to the 10th until we get some answers from them? Maybe they can tell us where they are, or
Send us a picture or something.
exactly.
Can you give me some guidance on the blueberry bushes?
Same thing, if they can send us a picture, the rest of the plantings.
So they owe us 9 blueberry bushes.
Okay.
I think we held 19 lullaby to that. I think we held 19 lullaby to that standard. So I think we need to hold these guys as well. So
Agreed. So any public comment on 10 Dongary?
My apologies. I was talking to him about another project just the other day.
Rory, do you see any hands raised? I'm guessing not.
no hands raised.
All right, I'll make a motion to continue 10 Dongary to August 10th.
Spady, second.
Oh,
Whoop.
Hit it like a flash. All right, Rory,
Mike can have it.
So that was a Spady a second for the record.
Bam, got it.
Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
Spady, aye.
Thomas, aye.
Latino, aye. Easy.
Okay, so minutes. Anybody have anything for the minutes?
No comments.
Nada.
Top notch.
Top notch. Nice job. So I will make a motion to accept the minutes of July 13th, 2020.
Catino second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Lundin abstain.
Spadia, aye.
Thomas, I.
Catino aye.
Okay. And next up is environmental planner updates.
You have not a lot going on. Oh, the water department has, I'm pulling them up now. Okay, so the water department has put in the concrete pad. They're waiting for DEP approval. Oh, do you know I'm talking about the Wheaton Farm Barn? They will put in a visual barrier along two sides to block it from the street. They said if you'd like, they'd do a 6 foot high cedar fencing or expand the lilac bushes.
I actually been out to look at it, so I don't know which is. Anybody have any ideas which one would be better?
Lilacs sound lovely.
I was gonna think that too.
It'd have to be pretty tall because this is a 5 foot height structure. So he'd need to do he'd have to put some pretty mature ones in.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have some pretty tall ones outside one of my windows. They're like they grow pretty big.
They grow fast too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do, especially right now.
So I think lilac bushes is what we're the consensus here. So.
Oh, that would be excellent for them because they need the ability to open up a 3 foot door and work.
There you go. We are here nothing but to please our partners in the town.
On the record. Okay, and then the only other is the latest update on the EEE monitoring. And if you need it for the weekly update, the Easton and most of Southeast Mass is still in a low risk, but Carver and Middleborough just shot up to a high risk.
Yeah, someone already has in Middleborough.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, so I haven't been watching the news. According to DPH website, they hadn't.
Yeah.
They're not as good, I guess, when it's not COVID. So that's about it for me. It's been a dry week. Next week, remember our young Eagle Scout candidate is coming to talk about the Keach Memorial Park travel trail. The trail that Stefan was very excited about, but I want you to know Mike Spadilla was very excited about too.
Yeah, buddy.
Well, he probably has more energy than me right now anyway, so he can.
Dude, I have a new puppy. We're both dealing with babies, and I never want kids after having a new puppy, so I'm done.
Yeah, brain is sufficiently melted.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
Right.
Okay, so you want to go?
Yeah, sure. All right, so next up we got the commission election of officers and representative to CPC, Community Preservation Committee. So I'm going to take this time to note that at the end of August, I plan on stepping down for obvious reasons. It's a little difficult to balance everything going on with the 3 children. I can't tell you how many times I heard the little anecdote that, oh, you have number 3, you're going to his own defense, and I chuckled it off for 9.5 months, and it's real.
I'm noting that, by the way.
Yeah, Mike, don't get more puppies than there are humans.
Don't you worry, no, please. I'm ready to sell this one, so.
Oh yeah, my poor wife. We've got 3 sons and 2 boy dogs, so she's like ridiculously outnumbered in the house. So yeah, so that's my plan. So as far as election of officers, I was going to nominate Rory for chair.
Well, Stefan, I have a question. You said you're stepping down from the chairmanship or from the
From the commission itself entirely.
commission altogether?
Yep. I would like to remain an associate member, so I can kind of remain loosely involved and pitch in if I get some time here and there on some of these fun projects. But as far as the day to day and meetings and all that stuff, yeah, I'll be stepping down as a commissioner.
Well, thank you for your service.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's been good.
Yeah, life just gets in the way, doesn't it?
Oh, it sure does.
I'm in a similar boat, so yeah, closing on my house this Friday. So
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. So I'm going to stay with the commission as long as they allow me to for a little while until everything kind of gets evened out.
Right. So you're no longer an Easton resident?
Well, I won't be once I close on my house.
Right, but I think there's some wiggle room there.
Right.
And thank you for hanging around with us as long as you can, because you bring a lot of good resources and knowledge here. It's awesome.
Yeah.
No, it's been fun. I've really enjoyed it. Good group right here.
By the way, I saw you the other day, John, over by Rattlesnake Hill, hanging out in the truck.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna beep and annoy him. I was like, if it's not him, that's just weird. So.
Yeah.
Well, it was funny because I was up at Sharon Community Center on Saturday night just having a picnic with the family, and we parked right next to a town vehicle. I didn't know that I had parked next to the conservation.
Oh, that's my vehicle. Yes.
I know. I meant to text it to you. I took a picture of it and said I was going to text it to you.
It's a mess right now.
That's great.
So yeah, I mean, Stefan, we've worked together for over 3 years now, and it's really been a great time for me, and I learned a tremendous amount from you, and how well you handled some, very challenging situations, and so I do appreciate that you've done for us and for me personally, and teaching me what I need to know to be a good commissioner. So thank you for that, and I know we'll continue to be friends. So that will be along those lines. So I do appreciate all the time.
Yeah, thanks for those kind words, Rory. I appreciate it. Right back at you. I have certainly learned a lot from you as well, my friend. You've been the vice chair for how long have I been chair now? I think it's been 2 years almost to the day. What a time that was a couple of years ago. And so you've been vice chair with me just since then, and you filled in a number of times, most recently this long stretch, and I think you've done an awesome job. I think it'd be great for carrying on the chair going forward. So that's why I felt it was good to nominate you for that.
Thanks. So do we have anybody who wants to do vice chair, or does anybody else want to be a chair? We need a vice chair. So I think it's got to be Mike or Carol, given John's. Unless John,
I'm going to be departing, so it's kind of a short-lived chair, vice chair.
Exactly. Carol, Mike.
It's not a position that I wish to have right now.
Okay. So.
I'm interested in Rory. If we could talk about it more and what that would entail and all that. I'm just, for me, I'm also trying to move out of my parents' house. COVID has now officially made me nuts, and so I'm trying to figure out my life and then obviously the next step with a job and all that fun stuff. So if you want to talk about what that will entail, I'd be happy to do that.
So why don't we do this? Because we can either put it off a week, and so that Mike and I can talk next week, this coming week, and so he can get comfortable with that. And maybe we just have it again on the 10th, and we defer it off for a week until Mike's comfortable with it. I don't want to push Mike into a situation where he's not comfortable. So.
Yeah, and I just don't want to take something that I'm not going to be. Yeah, perfect.
Sounds good.
There is a motion on the table now. for the
There is,
chair.
it was not seconded though, so.
I second the motion to, for Rory to be our future chair.
Oh, do you want to vote for the chair right now? Can we do that?
I'd rather do the whole slate if we can.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll table that motion and we'll pick it up again next week.
So just for the record, are you withdrawing your second, Carol?
Sure.
Okay.
No offense.
Yeah, no offense. I'm just trying to keep. Tish will have me if I don't keep
Yeah,
it
right.
straight.
So I guess technically I will withdraw my motion. Pending next week.
So we'll do that. We'll talk about it on the 10th. Carol, are you still interested in being on the CPC?
Sure.
So we'll talk about that at the next meeting.
Yeah, Carol, I thought you were awesome at that meeting that we had for the Wheaton Farm Barn. And you know, it's great to have you represent us on there.
Thank you.
There's a meeting of the CPC coming up. I don't know if it's next Thursday, the 13th, or the 20th. It's a Thursday. So if you make the motion, if we get the CPC representative by the 10th, whoever it is has got to get sworn in immediately.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess should we just have vote Carol into that now? Is that okay, Carol? You good with that? Okay. So I'll make a motion to nominate Carol Lundeen to be the Community Preservation Committee representative for the Conservation Commission.
Call second.
All right.
Roll call.
Spady, aye.
Can I vote?
Thomas, aye.
Lundeen, aye.
Caulfield's aye.
Catino, aye.
Okay.
All right. So and the rest will table. All right. So we got guiding principles.
So I think that this is the last version with the edits we had from our last meeting. I'm good with this. I'm happy with where we ended on this. So if there's any other comments on this, are we going to use this as our guiding principles as we start down the road for regulatory revision?
I'm not going to be here, but I like it.
Okay.
I like it as well.
You like what? That you're not going to be here?
Don't laugh too hard. That baby can wake up.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, keep bouncing.
I know, just constantly in motion.
Yeah.
And like, just for your information, even when the baby's gone, this lasts like at least 6 months. I'm just gonna be hanging out with my friends.
You're going to be swaying just casually all the time.
It's like getting off the ice rink, right?
Uh,
Throw a little bounce in there.
So are we all set with these guiding principles?
Yeah, I think they're great. I would like to revisit the question of why are we doing this during a state of emergency?
Which part?
The pursuing changes to the regulations.
So I don't think we have yet. I think we're just trying to get the guiding principles. I agree with you that probably during the state of emergency, we should hold off on changing regulations. I agree with you. I know personally, I probably can't put enough brain power towards it to make it be something that really gets us the substantive changes that we want to incorporate. So I agree with you, but let's get the principles on the books, and then we can sort of move forward when the time is right. So.
Okay, so I motion that we adopt the guiding principles. I think it's version 4A.
It's dated July 10th, 2020.
So version 4 dated July 10th, 2020.
Catino second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Lundeen, aye.
Spady, aye.
Thomas, aye.
Catino, aye.
And last item is, I don't have anything for anticipated by the chair. Stefan, this is what was a joint co-chair meeting. This was sort of handing it back and forth.
I know. I don't think I had anything either. Yeah, nothing.
Okay, then we have one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Thomas second.
Okay. Roll call. Call aye.
Monday night.
Spady, aye.
Thomas, aye.
Catino, aye. Have a good night, everybody.
Good
Thanks,
night.
everybody.
Thank you.
Guys, have a good one.
Thanks, Andrea, especially.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Andrea.
Bye-bye.